everyone, and welcome to the Sew Homey Podcast. My name is Abby, and whether you're returning or you're new here, I just want to welcome you. It's so great to have you here. I love to chat about the yarn I'm using, all of the projects, whether I finish those or if they're still in progress. I like to chat about all of those things, and this time I do have, I'm going to call them acquisitions. I've actually had this yarn, but I did something fun with it. So you can look forward to that in this episode. I will be honest, this is like my fifth time trying to begin this episode because my neighbors, I live in an apartment complex, and my neighbors downstairs have some very yappy dogs. And as soon as I sat down to record, they just started barking. So if you hear that, I apologize if it's distracting, but there's really nothing I can do. I just decided to go through with this. I can't wait any longer. I just have so many projects that I want to chat about. And if you are returning, you'll notice that I at least have a better background. I tried a little bit harder. I've explained in the past few episodes that I moved, and I just received a job offer, so I might be moving again. So the background, I apologize. It hasn't really been the best that it could be, and I apologize for that, but I did try, and I even pulled out my pumpkins. I made those last year, and yeah, that's actually a free pattern on my blog, and I have one to show you up close. I'm just so happy about the fall, and I remember that I made all of these pumpkins. I have like 8 of them, I think, because I was testing them all out, and I made them all last year. It's a free pattern. You can also purchase it from Etsy or Ravelry if you'd like to support me in my designs, but this is what one of them looks like. This is the smallest size, and I used a number 4 weight yarn, and it was held double stranded, so it's actually like a super bulky or number 6 weight yarn, the way that like whenever you hold it together. But these were crocheted, and I love that they look like a 2x1 ribbing that's knit anyway. But yeah, it comes with 3 different sizes, and it's large, medium, and then small. And all of those, you can get 1 large pumpkin out of 1 skein of Lion Brand Thick and Quick, or you can get a medium and a small, I think, from 1 skein of yarn. But that's all detailed in the blog post if you want to check it out. I just thought I'd give a little plug there. It's not a finished object this time, but I did want to show them off because I'm just so excited that it's finally fall. It's kind of started to feel like that in the weather. In the mornings and in the evenings, it's definitely cooler, and I really love that, but it's still like 80 degrees Fahrenheit in the afternoon, so it still feels kind of like summer, but I'm really excited that at least, we're getting a little bit more crisp air and it's cooling down, so I'm really looking forward to that, and it just has put me in the mood for decorating for the fall. And yeah, so I pulled out my pumpkins, and I think that's enough said about that. I will go ahead and get into the first finished object that I have. Actually, it's the only finished object that I have to show in this episode. I have been working really hard. I've actually been knitting a lot in these last few weeks. It's been, I think, 2 weeks since I've sat down and talked with you guys. But I have projects to show for it, but not finished. I do have, let me find it. I'll go ahead and show you. This is my first finished object. And I do have both of them done. I just threw one on a sock blocker so you can kind of see what it would look like on. And my sock blockers are too small. I didn't realize that whenever I purchased them, and unfortunately I bought them out of town. My city doesn't have a yarn shop that sells these, so whenever I visited, I purchased a set. However, I didn't realize that I purchased a small, and for my foot, I definitely should have gotten a medium. I mean, it kind of works, mostly. Just have to kind of shove them on there. But this is a sock that I made, and there's a written pattern because I jotted it down in my handy little notebook. I'm actually very proud that this one got written down. I made sure to actually write the instructions down because I guess I should back up. So this sock pattern, was made up. I had this yarn. I actually have some left, and I wanted to basically just see if I could make a pair of socks without a pattern, and it was a lot of fun. I only had one skein of this one, and I still have a lot left. I really tried to measure it out. I even weighed it to make sure, that it would be like split half and half so that I would have plenty of yarn. And I wanted to make a shorty pair because I knew that I wouldn't have enough for like a long cuff. And then I also had some of this yarn left over, and they're both Patton's Croy. This one I think was flax, and I don't remember this one. It was like brown and purple marl or something like that. I'll find it and I can link it below, but I only had a little bit of this one, and it matched pretty well, so I figured I would get the majority of the sock made out of this main color, but then I would do the toe and the heel with this contrasting color, but it really kind of flows with it. Like, if you don't look too closely, like, you won't notice a difference. It's just a little bit darker and it's more gray than the color, than what this colorway had, but I think it blends nicely. And so I used it for the heel and then the toe portion, and that really stretched out the yarn. Honestly, I could have used the whole skein of this one and just used it for this pair of socks, and I think it would have been fine. I don't think I would have run out at all. But I just really wanted to test my sock knitting skills. I've been knitting a lot of socks lately, and starting in February, whenever I first learned how, they're just a lot of fun. They're so quick, and I can take them on the go. They don't take up much space, and I'm getting better at it where I don't really have to look at what I'm doing most times. And so that's why I've been knitting a lot of socks. Plus, winter's coming, and I'm really excited to have some new socks to wear around the house and in my shoes. And so I actually wrote down everything that I did in my handy notebook, and I mainly did this because I have to duplicate it, right? You have to make 2 socks, so I can't rely on my memory to be like, oh, okay, I did this many stitches, this many rows, blah, 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 So I made sure to write everything down as concisely, but as in detailed as I could. So it's not like a perfect pattern or anything, but I was able to duplicate it, and stitch markers really helped. I already took those out, but it really helped me to count the rows and know exactly where I would go for the heel. So the construction of this sock, I feel like I'm babbling. I'm so sorry if I'm babbling. Anyway, but the construction of this sock, it was a cuff down sock, and I decided to try out my 9-inch circulars again. This is a 1.5 or a 2.5 millimeter 9-inch circulars. These are ChowGoo. And I actually purchased these whenever I did my first colorwork sock. It was for the pattern test for Penrose Knits, and it was the corset socks. I think I showed them in the last episode again. They featured in several episodes, so if you're curious what they look like, you can go a few episodes back and find those. But that's why I purchased these. But I wanted to try just doing a cuff down sock and try my hand at an afterthought heel, because the first pair of socks that I ever did that with was the corset socks, and it's it just intrigues me, and I figured I would be able to use this one skein because I wanted to make this last as long as I could, for the socks. So I wanted to basically just make a tube, just keep knitting and knitting and knitting. until, I had weighed this one for the first sock. So I was trying to get, half of the skein of yarn by weight knit up on a sock, and then I would go in and add an afterthought heel. I did do that, but obviously I ended up with a lot more yarn, so I'm not entirely sure if my measurements were inaccurate, or I don't know exactly what happened, but I'm really happy with how it turned out. And this afterthought heel actually worked. I'm not going to say that the other one didn't work, but I didn't add enough rounds before I started decreasing for the heel, so it's super tight on my foot, and I just need to go back and rip back the increased rows on the heel, so that then I can add just straight stockinette or just regular rows without decreasing, because that's actually what Laura told me to do after I said that this was an issue. She said that you just have to go back and then add a few more rows and then start the decrease for the heel, and that will allow, more, more room for your heel to move around in the sock, I guess. And yeah, it totally makes sense. And it took me a little bit. I added way too many rows the first time because I had no idea. I ended up adding 5 rows of just knitting in the round, and then I started my decreases for the heel. And yeah, with this yarn weight and the combination of the needles, it really worked, and five rows was perfect. They fit very, very well on my feet now. So I'm just like so ecstatic that I was able to make a pair of socks that came out of my brain, and I was able to use the knowledge that I've acquired through just knitting other people's patterns. So that was a lot of fun. I'm not sure that this is going to turn into an actual pattern. I think it's very generic, and there's a lot of patterns out there like that. But if you're interested, maybe just let me know in the comments, and I could probably write it up. I already have my notes here. It wouldn't take me too long, but yeah, I don't really know because I haven't graded it for other sizes or anything. So maybe it would just be like a recipe for your own. I don't really know if I'm really interested in even writing it up, but if you are interested, please let me know. But that is my first and only finished object, and yeah, again, I'm super happy with them. I actually wore them last night, and I wanted them to fit. I have some high top sneakers, and I wanted them to just fit barely over, because they do rub on my ankle sometimes and it bothers me, and with a short pair of socks. So that's why I made a longer cuff, but not too long, and it actually worked out perfectly. The measurements, I'm extremely, extremely happy that actually worked out. Also, I have a pair of booties that kind of do the same thing, and I think that these would be cute. I think they're a little bit shorter, so there might be more of the cuff that shows, but I'm totally happy with that. I think that they turned out really well, and yeah, I'm just very happy with the fit. And I did find out, actually, if you've never done an afterthought heel and you're afraid of actually doing the afterthought heel because you're not sure if it's going to fit or not, because what I couldn't figure out exactly, even looking through patterns and blog posts about afterthought heels, I wasn't sure how long to make the foot of the sock. I already knew how much I wanted of the cuff to for how long I wanted that to be, but I wasn't sure about the foot. So what I actually did was I knit the giant tube until I thought I probably had enough for my foot, but I kept those on the needles, it was only this. It was still in the round. It was on this, and then I went in, I added the heel. I tested it out first and finally got something that actually fit, and then whenever I finished the heel, I slid it on my foot, and I only had to knit a few more rows until I was happy with the length of it. and then I added the toe, and they fit perfectly. So if you are afraid about the fit and you're not entirely sure how long to make the foot of the sock, I highly recommend doing that. Just leave those on hold and then do your heel and then finish off the toe. I think that you can get a really good fit that way. Less room for error. You don't have to rip back anything. So highly recommend that. But anyway, I think I'm done with this one. I've talked way too much on this one. I have other projects that I'd like to show you. So my next project I actually showed in the previous episode, and this one is the THEA top. And I really apologize. I forgot to write her name down again, but I will make sure to link this pattern. I purchased this one a few weeks ago. I had already purchased it last episode. So yeah, it's probably been like 3 weeks to a month since I purchased it, and I'm very pleased with it. I did talk about a couple things in the last episode, and I did end up ripping back. What happened was the pattern calls for a selvage stitch or selvage edge, and that's just where you knit the first and last stitch of every single row. And what I was getting was like the purl bumps on the side, and I can't really show you on this one. I mean, kind of. No, I can't really show you on this one because I ripped it out, but it was just like a big bump, and like you could actually feel it with your finger. And since it's a tank top and it's gonna go under my arms, I wasn't sure if that would rub, and I wasn't entirely happy with the look of it. And so yeah, with the combination of that, I just didn't want it to really irritate me. And so that was one thing. And then the other thing was the increases. I don't know if I did it wrong at the time, but I think it was like the M1R and M1L. That's the increase type that this pattern uses. And every time I did that, I got a giant gap on the sides. And you're supposed to pick up stitches to add the ribbing along the sleeve and then the neck. But where the increases were, I don't know, I just had like these giant holes. And it wasn't like you would still be able to see those holes. And I was like, that's not what hers looks like. And so I scratched that. I tested out a different increase where I just yarned over. And then I just knit and then yarned over whenever I got to the next increase. And then you just knit through the back loop of that yarn over. And I found that actually worked. I didn't have any gaps. It still increased. I liked the look of it, so I just went with that simple technique. So that's two things that I changed, and I'm very happy that I ripped back and changed them because I'm so much happier with the results that I've gotten. Now, it actually looks like a tank top now. I'm really happy with it. Let me grab it. So this is what it looks like, and I really need to get an interchangeable set of needles. I don't even remember the length of these. It's way too, it's way too short for the actual length. So you can't really see like the actual circumference of this thing, but you can actually see that it's a tank top, and it did increase nicely. Still curls. I did actually block this part already because I wasn't sure about the length, because the yarn that I'm using is, I talked about in the last episode, but it's KC Element, and it's 90% cotton, 10% acrylic, and it has 102 yards per skein, and it's really soft. I got these on clearance. That's why I ended up with a gajillion of them. And so whenever I saw that pattern, I just, thought that would be perfect for it. And since it wasn't the same yarn as what was in the pattern, there, can always be gauge issues. And I did knit a gauge swatch, which I'm so proud. I actually did it in the round as well. I blocked it and I measured it. The stitch count was the same as what the pattern said, but the row count was different. I didn't want to switch yarns because I already had way more than enough of this yarn for this pattern. So I decided to just go with it, and I can always add rows or take rows away. In my case, it would be adding rows because, the gauge was too small. There weren't enough rows to meet gauge, and so, I just figured, I made a little swatch, and it can always change. It might be a little bit bigger once I actually get to knitting it, and that is the case. However, it still wasn't enough rows. So I can't even remember how many more rows I've done. I think maybe 15, 20 at this point. I've done more than what the pattern calls for, and it's still too short, but I went ahead and blocked it. I washed it and blocked it to make sure that like the actual length of what it would be, because I didn't want to knit so much and then it be way too long, or like a lot longer than what I really wanted. But at the same time, I don't want it too short. And because I plan to, wear this in multiple occasions. I could wear it to work with a cardigan over it, or I could just wear it, in the summer or just around the house. I wanted it to be just a piece that I can wear in a lot of different occasions. And so whenever I blocked it, it's like 2 inches shy of what I would like it to be before I start the ribbing. So it'll probably end up being about 3 inches longer than what it is currently. But right now where it fits is like right above my belly button. You can still see my belly button. So I went a little bit longer than that. And then I can start adding the ribbing along around the underarms, or just the armholes, the neck, and also the bottom. So this is already 5 skeins, so I think I'm only going to need like 6 skeins of it, which is pretty good actually, which leaves me a lot more. So I might still make my mom a tank top for her Christmas present. I still haven't decided because I'm unsure of her measurements, and I don't know if I want to just ask her, because then she'll know what I'm doing. So I don't know. We'll still have to see about that one. But it's fitting really well, and I'm very pleased with it. One thing about this though is like it was so weird. So I don't know if you'll be able to see this. I think you probably can. Yeah, if I can get it. Sorry, I don't know if you can see that, but whenever I washed it, like I soaked it with some wool wash, and then I drained some of the excess water out of it, but then I blocked it. Sorry, I have hairs in this. And I blocked it, and I had the fan on, and it like turned my, like the front side that was exposed to like the air, it turned like this orangey color. Like it's super weird, and it left a line. That's where it was laying flat. I'm not sure like why that happened, but there's a big color difference now from the front and the back. I'm not sure if that will wash out. Has that happened to anybody else? If it has, let me know. I haven't really looked into that. Sorry, bug. I just thought that it was really weird. Sorry, there's a bug. Yeah, I don't know. I just thought that was like really weird. I'm hoping that it washes out, but I really don't know. But yeah, if that's happened to you before, if you have any suggestions, let me know, please. Because I don't want it to be 2 different colors. And I definitely don't want like a line down the side that'll look like I dyed it or something, or like my sweat got on it. I don't know. It's weird. But anyway, so hopefully I will have that tank top done by the next episode. That's the project that I've really been working on the most. I just knit on it for hours and hours on end, just stockinette. I will be honest, it gets a little bit boring just doing straight stockinette in the round, but I've been watching TV while I do that and other podcasts. So, time passes quickly, and it is still fun. It's very enjoyable, but yeah, I'm looking forward to finishing that one. Now, the next whip that I have is my blanket. It's been featured in several episodes at this point. I have been working on it for a while, but I work on it and then it sits for a while, and then I work on it a little bit and then it just sits. I need to get it done because it's a perfect fall pattern, fall and winter pattern. So I think this is going to be the next one that I really try so hard to release in probably November, hopefully. I still need to test it myself, finish it how I want it, write up the pattern, which I have most of it written up already. I just need to check the gauge and all that. And then I hope to have some testers for the sizes. I still have to decide on the sizes that I want for the blanket. Add those, measure or grade the blanket for those sizes if I choose to do more than one size. And find pattern testers. If you're interested, let me know. Otherwise, I will be finding pattern testers for this one. But that's really like the next stages of this pattern. I just have to finish my little sample. But this is the blanket that, if you've been around, you've seen this in a couple of episodes. This one's actually crocheted. I really love it because it looks knit. It looks like a knit one, purl one from the front side. But then on the back side, you get this totally different texture. And I have yarn tails that I need to weave in, but you can see the texture. It's totally different from the front side. I really like the contrast, if I can get it to contrast. Oh, let's see. I really like the contrast. You pretty much can have your pick of what side you want to show. I lean more towards the knit look side, but I do enjoy the texture from the back side. It kind of reminds me of turtles or snails, which I've mentioned before, but I'm very pleased with how this blanket is turning out. And most recently, I added a few rows, not that you can really tell from the last time I showed this, but what I've been working on is figuring out the fringe. I just love the twisted fringe look, and the way that this blanket is made, so that how you actually get the stitch pattern is by crocheting one single strand of yarn. So you start with, let me show you. Basically, you start on this side, on the right side, at least for me. You leave a long yarn tail, tie a slip knot, make a standing half double crochet. So this is made in half double crochet. And then you basically half double crochet into the first stitch. Then you half double crochet all the way across the top, which is actually half double crochet in the third loop, which is explained in a couple of my other videos. I think I have a separate tutorial for that one if you're interested in that. But you just make a half double crochet in the third loop all the way across until you reach the end. And then once you reach the end, you measure out the same length of yarn from the opposite side. So I think mine's about 11 inches. Measure 11 inches, cut it, and then you tie it off. And what you get are all of these little yarn strands. So this is what you get at the end of the blanket. But instead of weaving those in, and you do this so that you can get this texture, because if you just crochet back and forth, half double crochet in the third loop, you get a different texture. It'll be reversible. I've actually used it no, it's not reversible. You still get a different texture, but whenever you do it, it just looks different. And so I didn't really want to do that on this blanket. I wanted to test out what it would look like with this look. So anyway, so you end up with all of these little yarn strands, and rather than weaving them in, we're going to make them into little tassels, if you can see that. So or fringe, as I like to call it as well. So I've been testing out how I want to even tie the fringe, and I am curious which one you like best. Do you like the thinner or do you like the thicker? I won't tell you what I'm leaning towards so that I don't taint your your opinion. So yeah, if you really don't mind letting me know, just in the comment section below, I would love to hear what you think, whether you like the thicker or the thinner, or like this one's kind of medium, this one's very thin, and then we have the thicker ones. So yeah, I've just been testing it out, just trying to see what I like. So I would love to have your input on that. My sister has a different opinion than me, so I would love to see what you have to say about it. But yeah, this pattern is, I'm really excited about it. It's really, it's going to be a good one. I don't know, I basically almost have it done. So I'm really hoping that I can push through and finalize the pattern, and then I can find a good date to release it, and all you lovely people can have access to it if you're into that sort of thing. But again, yeah, this one is crocheted, and yeah, I'm just in love with it. So this one has also been on the back burner because it has been so hot, and I don't want to you basically have to wear the blanket as you're crocheting it across your lap. So that's another reason why this one has been in a different area, So yeah, hopefully it'll cool down and I'll be able to finish that one pretty quickly. Now, my last whip is one that I showed way back. I think it was back in May or June. I talked about it because it's a sweater that I designed for my sister. I took all of her measurements, all the stuff, and this was a couple years ago, and I found this yarn that I really liked at Hobby Lobby. She works there, and so she got me a discount on the yarn, and I bought several skeins of it, and I even let her pick out the color choices, and then she was like, yeah, you can do whatever, make it into whatever you would like. And I don't know, I was extremely confident in myself that I could do this, and I'm so happy that I was like that. But I had never knit a sweater before, and I bought Amy Herzog's book of sweaters. I showed it in the last episode. I'll link it below if you're interested. It's a very good book, and it explains the sweater design process very well. And I was actually able to draft my own pattern, and I did end up with a sweater. It does look like a sweater. But yeah, this one seriously has been on my needles for, I think it's been 2 years now. And I had part of a sleeve, I think, the last time that I showed it, but I finally finished the sleeve. I decided to go with just straight up green instead of the gray, but I really liked this dip dyed look. I don't know, I was really into that whenever I first made this, and I love the ribbing, and I made a split hem because I was totally into the split hems. I still do enjoy those. And yeah, it was a bottom up sweater. It's a drop shoulder as well. I think that those are easier to comprehend and easier to knit whenever it's your first sweater pattern to ever knit. And yeah, I just think it's still so funny how I was so confident to actually do this. I even looked up how to do some shoulder shaping so that it wasn't like super boxy, so it does come down at a little bit of a slant. I don't know if I could ever duplicate this. I have the notes, but they are awful. They are not very clear at all. So I don't know if you're interested in a pattern or not, but I don't know. This would probably take me a while to actually write up, because then I'd have to grade it and all that stuff as well. But this is the progress. I think I probably knit from, I don't know, maybe here. I probably had to this first purl row done. And then I took it whenever I went camping with my brother and my sister back at the beginning of June. So I did that. We stayed inside because it was raining a lot. And so I did do a lot of knitting, and I got through most of it, but then I found I needed the needles. Actually, that's what happened. I needed the needles for the tank top project, for the THEA tank top, and I needed the needles for that. So I was very determined to finish the sleeve so that I could just cast off and then use those needles for my next project. So that's what I did. And I'm glad that I did, because maybe now that I have one sleeve done, I'll be motivated to do the other sleeve so that I can finally gift this to her. I do have to figure out the neckline though, because I picked out, I think it was like a boat neck, or maybe it was just, I think it was a boat neck. No, I don't know. I liked the deeper neck look, and I thought with this bind off, it was neat enough that I'd be able to just use that as the neckline. But the sweater, I think it kind of grew, and it really falls to the side of your shoulders whenever you wear it, and then it's kind of very open. So I think that I might add the neck, like some ribbing at the neck, so that I can kind of close up those gaps and hopefully make it fit a little bit better. She's actually tried this on. She knows what it looks like, and I think that she'd be happy with it. I just don't know how much she would wear it. Probably just like at home, which is totally fine. If it's not her style, it's not her style. I don't know. She tells me she likes it, but I don't know. So anyway, that's this pattern. It's kind of funny. I really liked the stripes, but I didn't want to go through all the color changes, and I couldn't figure out a pattern that I liked, so I ended up just doing like a pearl bump so that I could get like a stripe effect. And I actually do enjoy that, but yeah, I think that there would be a few things I would do differently if I had just waited to design my own sweater, but whatever, doesn't matter. So hopefully you'll be able to see that one finished in an upcoming video. But with that, that's really all of my projects that I would like to talk about. And so that brings us to the last section. And normally this is just called acquisitions. This is actually yarn that I acquired about 2 years ago as well, probably over 2 years ago. I bought some yarn from Dyer Supplier whenever they had a big sale, and I bought a lot of just blank skeins so that I could dye them, because I don't know, I've just always wanted to dye yarn, and I see a lot of videos and I've seen a lot of blog posts about people using natural dyes, and I'm like, that's really cool. I love avocado. I eat them a lot. And so I was like, that would be so easy for me to accumulate, just like the pits and the skins. And so I have been collecting those for such a long time. My mom even collects them for me now, which is very sweet of her. And I don't know, I have so many skins and pits that I haven't used, and I've just always been waiting for like the perfect time to finally dye it. I got ready to about over a year ago, and I had found a pot from the thrift store that I was going to use, but then what held me back was the water. I didn't know how the water would affect it, because you can get so scientific and use the little papers that tell you, all of the information about the water, if it's acid, if it's not, like all the different aspects of the water that would actually affect the dye. And I couldn't find any at the time. It was in the middle of the pandemic. I wasn't sure which ones to purchase online, and so therefore I never did. And that's what held me back. And like, I don't know, just looking back, it's like so stupid. I should have just gone with it. That's, just go with it. Just try it. You'll know better next time. And so the yarn has been put away. It's not like in my sight all the time. And so one day, I actually did this back in September, and I forgot to show you in the last episode, but I did get the pot out. I made the dye, and then I actually dyed the skeins of yarn, and I finally did it. I didn't need the papers to test the water. I didn't need that. I got colors that I'm very happy with, because the first time I take that back. I did try it, but I cut like 20 grams off of several skeins because I bought different yarn weights and I wanted to test on the different yarn weights and the different fiber content just to see how it would affect it. And I hated the color. It was so gross. I did not like it at all. It was barely pink at all. It was more like orangey. And yeah, I wasn't happy with it at all. And then I never dyed again. But I think what happened was I didn't let the dye seep out of the pits long enough. And so I just got this very muted color. And that's why I didn't like it. So what I did this time, actually, I had 2 different pots. One of them I got from the thrift store. One of them I got from my mom's. It was an old camping pot. It was stainless steel, but yeah, in hindsight, I shouldn't use that one ever again, and I'll show you why. But I put just the pits in one of my pots, the one that I got from the thrift store that was actually fairly new looking. And this is the color that I got. I'm really hoping that the camera picks it up. It's this beautiful pink. It's like this dusty pink. I'm really happy with like the depth of this color. It's a lot darker than some of the ones that I've seen, and so I'm extremely happy with this. And this one I put them in the same dye pot, and I did get the same color. This is the one that I had dyed previously, so I was technically dyeing over it, but whenever I did that, I basically got the same exact color, so it didn't really like matter that it had been like dyed a little bit before. But this is what I got. I'm so happy with them. And this is sock yarn, so hopefully you'll see this featured in future episodes where I'm making socks. I actually have the perfect project for this. I just have to purchase the pattern and decide if I'm going to make it for myself or my sister. Probably myself, but you know, I need something for her for Christmas if I don't get that sweater done. Okay, and then the other skein of yarn looks like this, and this one was dyed with just the skins. I wanted to see if you get a difference, because most of the blog posts and the videos that I've seen, like people just throw all of them in the same pot. And actually I added a few pits to this one. I think I just added 2 pits because you do need the tannin in it so that it binds to the fiber. So I did add a couple of pits in there, but it was mainly the skins. And I got this more purple color, which I really like, but I do need to test this out again because I used the camping pot, and so it is so old, and it had, you know, like black stuff on the bottom from like the camp stove fire, and it was probably over an actual fire as well, and I don't know, it was black, and I don't know, I scrubbed it before I used it, but let me open this and you'll see what I mean. But I got these black marks and in some places it looks kind of speckled, but yeah, I did get a lot of these black marks through it, and I got, you know, with the purple. And again, this is sock yarn, so I'm not really worried about it. It'll probably just work up like it was, you know, dyed that way. And like, I think it'll look fine. I'm not really worried about that, but I am curious whether or not the, whatever was in it and whatever was coating that pot, I wonder if it affected the color, because these are 2 totally different colors, or if it was just the pits or the skins. So I need to run that experiment again. I do have more yarn, and I have a lot more avocado pits and skins. So I am curious if that is the reason for the color difference, or if you really do get that much of a difference from using just the pits or just the skins. But that was my little experiment. And again, that was done in September. Earlier in September, I just forgot to show you in the last episode, which makes me so sad. But I'm really happy with these. I can't wait to knit them up or crochet them up into something fun. Probably socks, definitely socks, at least for these skeins. And yeah, I'm just so pleased with it. So that really brings me to the end of this episode. I have probably been taking up way more of your time than what I intended, but it's been a lot of fun. It's been a joy to talk with you guys, and yeah, just let me know in the comments what kind of projects you're working on, whether you're more into the knitting right now or the crocheting, and what kind of projects are on your needles or your hooks. I know it's fall, so maybe it's sweaters like me, or maybe it's socks as well. But anyway, let me know what projects you're into right now, and I think I'm going to go ahead and sign off, and I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!